I'm here with Brandon Raub today, whose story has gone viral over the internet, television, newspapers. Someone who has basically been put through a horrific hell for at least a week, but we don't know how much more could be coming from the authorities. But first of all, I want to talk to you a bit about your past, who you are. As I understand it, you're a veteran. You've been twice overseas. You're a Marine. Tell me a little bit about that. How did you wind up being a Marine? And what tours did you serve and what did you do?
Well, very specifically, I got out of high school in 2004, and I worked for a year, and then looked at what was going on around the world, and saw how my brothers and sisters were volunteering to go overseas, and I loved my country quite a bit, so I figured that I kind of had a place in that. And very specifically, it was actually I always knew that if I joined a service, it would be the Marine Corps. And
why is that?
To be quite honest with you, it was a commercial that got me when I was a kid. The one where the guy is jumping through spinning spinning razor blades, and then he fights a monster with a sword. Yeah. Very specifically, that.
So you wanted to serve your country.
That kind of sold me. Yeah, absolutely.
And you were in Iraq and Afghanistan both.
That's correct.
What did you do over there? What was your main function as someone serving their country?
Well, I was a combat engineer, which is 1371 in the Marine Corps. Very specifically, I was actually connected to a line company, Charlie Company 4CB, which is our shift is a little bit different. Lots of times, for instance, we attach to the infantry, and in Iraq and Afghanistan specifically, I spent some of my time building field fortifications, looking for IEDs.
What are IEDs?
An improvised explosive device.
Oh, so you were defusing bombs?
Very specifically, I was finding them and
okay.
keeping other people from stepping on them.
Okay, so you were saving people's lives?
More or less, yeah.
Did you actually get any active combat, or were you support personnel?
Yeah, I got a little bit of active combat.
And what kind of active combat?
A firefighter too. Pulling explosions going off.
So your life was at risk?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So what did you actually? So you went to Afghanistan, you went to Iraq, you served 2 tours. You're a decorated Marine. What does decorated Marine mean?
Oh, I mean, you probably have to look real specifically at the medals that I have, but basically just that you have different medals or ribbons that signify different things that you've done.
Okay, so you serve, you're honorably discharged.
Correct.
You come back to America out of the service in what year?
2011.
So you returned to America in 2011.
Very specifically, December 2011.
And you live in the Richmond area and you set up some businesses.
Yes.
You're a local businessman.
That's right.
But the thing that kind of precipitated all this is you're very vocal about some problems in the United States. You got on Facebook and your website, and you wrote about articles I've read, by the way. Maybe to address this, and a lot of Americans I see today are going to the mall, they're shopping, they seem oblivious that there might be some problems with our government in this country, but you see problems. Basically, what problems do you see with our country?
Well, like anybody else, each American is different, obviously, but originally I never imagined that there would be problems to the degree that we have, or things going on that are easy to find if you're told to go look for them. Very specifically, the rampant abuse of executive orders.
Oh yes. Well, a lot of people, both the left and the political left and political right, are concerned about executive orders. It gives the president dictatorial powers.
Absolutely. I mean, it literally gives the president the ability to write his own laws.
And that's what he's doing.
It's currently what's going on in this nation.
In fact, George Bush issued more probably than any president, or Barack Obama is following suit.
Absolutely. So, what really concerned me was the length of time that, specifically, that we've had executive orders on record that will allow the federal government to seize private property.
Sure.
Industry, even language denoting labor camps, and that's real language in real executive orders. I think if the average American were to sit down and be told, hey, do you know that the federal government is saying that they have the power to take your property, to to seize control of industry in this country, to seize control of communications, of media.
And now the internet.
Now the internet.
Yes.
It reeks of 1984, and by that I mean George Orwell's 1984.
So you've seen a lot of troubling signs, and you're not alone. I mean, there are millions of Americans who have similar views. So you decided that you were not going to sit home, watch TV, and just let it go. So you went on the internet and you started saying some things.
I did.
Yes. You wrote some articles expressing your views. You got on Facebook. You had a private Facebook. And what do they call a grouping? Why don't you explain a little bit about what it was called? What, Dear Illuminati?
Yes. Basically, it
was basically your brother and your sister and you.
That's right. Yeah.
And you were quoting a rap group.
Yeah. Well, very specifically, there's a card game where you have different factions and they play each other to try and take over the world, and that's kind of what it was based on.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's a game.
And you were quoting Swollen Members, which is one of the lyrics was "You're sharpening your axe," which some people responded to obviously and thought they obviously weren't familiar with the group.
Well, very specifically, the line that I posted on my Facebook wall was "Sharpen up my axe, semicolon, I'm here to sever heads." Mm-hmm. And what I actually meant was that
what we call a metaphor.
Excuse me. Yes, a metaphor. Exactly. Yeah. The truth is very powerful, and it has the ability to cut. And the truth is not always nice. Sometimes it can be very specific. If that makes any sense.
Well, you told me you were a religious man. You're a Christian, but Jesus also said, "I came not to bring peace, but a sword." If he said that today, he might get investigated.
Well, Jesus also said, if you have two cloaks, sell one and buy a sword.
So, again, I think those are metaphors Jesus was talking about, but the point is that he could get investigated. So you said some things on your post. Supposedly there were some complaints that were received by the Secret Service and the FBI. And so Thursday, August 16th, you get a visit from some authorities. And who were these authorities?
Very specifically, originally it was two FBI agents who I spoke to for several minutes very candidly. And
where were you at when you spoke to them?
I was standing inside the door, speaking to them outside of the door through the screen. It was actually lowered, so we're.
And you were in your shorts at the time, right? Or was it shorts or pajama bottoms?
I was just in shorts.
Shorts, okay.
So I had I had the AC off. I had the fans on, so.
But there were some other policemen there too. You were talking to FBI, but there were other cops there as well.
Yeah, well, they were actually stacked all up and down the road, which is kind of interesting to me. That they felt the need to conceal themselves. If I was bold enough to say the things that I did on Facebook, I obviously wouldn't have a problem talking to police.
And so they talked to you. What did they, when they originally came to the door, what did they say?
They didn't say very much. I actually had to ask them why they were there.
And what did they say?
Well, they said they were concerned.
Did they say, "Hey, we have a search warrant, sir"?
Oh no, nothing of the sort.
Sir, we have an arrest warrant.
They said they were there just to talk.
And did they want to talk about eating soup, or what did they want to talk about?
In the beginning, it was very vague, and it was almost as if they wanted me to volunteer information, which I was happy to do. I actually spoke with them for several minutes.
And the content of your conversation was your Facebook post?
They mentioned it, yes.
And so did you try to explain to them what you were doing? Like you were just expressing your viewpoint.
They didn't. They seemed concerned, but they weren't very specific. So I felt like I had to draw it out of them. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so you went into detail in your statements. At what point did they move forward to arrest you and put handcuffs on you? Did you step outside? Did they ask you to step outside?
Very specifically, a Secret Service agent asked me to step outside and talk to him. And out of my own free will, I went into the street and spoke to them.
And at that point, what happened when you went into the street?
Very specifically, there was one Secret Service gentleman leading what was going on, and we spoke for about 10 minutes, and 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. And we started talking about various things that were going on in the government. I mentioned the Bilderberg Group, and their violation of politicians in this country meeting with them, specifically the Logan Act.
Okay.
And I gave him. They actually were interested in the things that I had to say. And at one point, one of the Secret Service was actually taking notes for things to research.
Oh, sure.
And so
against you, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see that now. But
at what point did they handcuff you?
Very specifically, 10 to 15 minutes in the conversation, the cops surrounded me and started trying to.
Did that surprise you at that point?
It did, absolutely. They didn't. It was almost as if they had come from that purpose in the beginning.
Did they say, "Sir, here are your Miranda warnings, your Miranda rights," which is required?
No, they just started grabbing me.
So they grabbed you. Yeah. Okay, there's a point. At any point in the, let's say, did they abuse you? Did they throw you against a car or a tree, or what happened?
Well, since I was mostly unclothed, I was in my shorts.
I know you can see, the people see the video. You did request once that you be able to get some clothes on, but they said no.
Well, we went to the front door, and with the anticipation of going in to get some clothes. And once we got there, they said, "No, you're not getting any." I actually volunteered. Well, I was in handcuffs at this point. I actually volunteered to go in, and I even told one of the gentlemen they could pull a gun on me if they were afraid, and walk me in so I could get some flip flops and a shirt because I realized they were going to detain me.
Uh-huh.
And then once we stood in front of the door for a minute or two while they debated letting me get clothes, and then I guess they decided they didn't like me.
The footage shows you going down the point where you push down, you fall down. What happened?
I realized that they weren't going to read me my rights, and they weren't arresting me. So I basically decided just to make it more difficult for them to take me, and I dropped my body weight. And I don't think one of the Chesterfield policemen liked it very much. And at that point, he tackled me into the fence.
Okay. So they put you in a police car, they take you to the police station, and most everyone watching this knows what happened. You were eventually taken to a hospital where you were put in what's called a psych ward. Okay, and there was a hearing, and a judge ruled Monday, August 23rd, I believe, that you should go another 30 days. You were moved to a facility in Salem, Virginia, 3.5 hours away from your family and your lawyers from us, and you were there. Let me just say, what did you think in your mind? Here you're a patriot, you fought for your country, you have outspoken views, which our First Amendment guarantees, by the way. You're not allowed to have free. It's your duty to speak for it if you're concerned about your country and the future of it. You wind up in a psychological ward where you have psychiatrists asking you questions, and one of them you told me was, "Do you hear voices?" and stuff like that.
Yes.
You even had one psychologist, as you said, a psychiatrist, who said that he was going to brainwash you. I remember you calling me on the phone about that when you were very concerned. I go back again. You've served your country well. You're a businessman. You're an upstanding person in your community. How did this impact you physically and even mentally? Let's put it that way.
Well,
being put in a facility like that.
I'm pretty tough, so I roll with the punches. But it made me scared for my country. The idea that a man can be snatched out of his property without being read his rights, I think should be very extremely alarming to all Americans.
Well, as we found out in this case, there are 20,000 of these civil commitments in Virginia alone, hundreds of thousands across the United States where people are being picked up. In your own county, I was told by a reporter, just in the month of August, and it hadn't been completed yet, the month hadn't run its course, there were 20 people who had disappeared in your own county like this.
I heard that as well.
That's scary. It's frightening. This is, like you said, Orwell. It's like out of Orwell's books, Philip K. Dick books, science fiction. So maybe what we're saying here is, and maybe correct me if you think I'm wrong, that fiction's become fact. We're living in an Orwellian society. What do you think?
Well, I can give you a perfect example that's true. If you read 1984, George Orwell, in that society, there was something called the Ministry of Truth. Bill Clinton very recently went on record and said that he believed there should be a Ministry of Truth in this country to monitor the content of the internet.
Oh yeah, well, the President of the United States, George Bush, they all believe that. They want to control the internet. So obviously people like you, or people like me who write it all the time, can become targets. So you became a target. Now we go back again.
It's almost like
this is the government you served overseas. You become a target of that government.
Well, it's a government that I loved.
And you want to see good things. You want freedom to prevail.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that's why you got on the internet and spoke, and you got punished for it. For the people listening to this, maybe the last parting word, what would you say? I mean, there are many of us in the civil liberties field that are really concerned that we're really going in a bad direction. I mean, we're going to have drones flying on this country pretty soon. They're going to be looking through our walls and listening to our conversations. And you don't advocate violence. None of us does. But what, in your opinion, should average Americans be doing right now in terms of preserving their freedoms? Should they emulate you and get on the internet and speak out? What would you suggest?
I mean, the first logical step is to educate yourself. And at this point in the game, if you're not, it's probably very dangerous.
Okay, educate yourself. And once you educate yourself, what should you do?
I would say pursue all peaceful methods of disseminating information and keeping your rights. Take the systems that are in place that are still available to us, Congress, the Senate, obviously, our school systems. Take the things that are in front of us that we have control over still.
Thank you for your stand, sir. Again, everybody knows the Whitehead Institute knows we're going to stand by you, and we have to do some more things to protect you and other citizens in this country. Thank you very much, Brandon.
Thank you.